What's up, everybody? It's Voodoo 51292 here, and welcome to another episode of Voodoo's Verdict, my honest and thorough game review series. And today we're going to be taking a look at the game Dead Island Riptide. Now, Dead Island Riptide was a sequel, or is a sequel, to the 2011 release Dead Island, a game that I played co-op with my friend Brandon on the PlayStation 3 in 2011. A game that we really enjoyed playing co-op together, even though there was a lot of bugs, there were a lot of glitches, extremely buggy and glitchy and somewhat repetitive game. But Brandon and I enjoyed playing it because we enjoyed doing stuff together and playing games together. So we had a lot of fun playing the game. It was a unique game, an interesting game. At the time, it was an original game. There wasn't anything out there quite like what Dead Island was, this open world zombie adventure with co-op and all these crazy weapons. Probably the closest thing to it would be like a Left 4 Dead. But it was a unique, interesting game that we really enjoyed playing. So when Dead Island Riptide was released just a couple weeks ago, we were very much interested to regroup and jump into the next game, Dead Island Riptide, to play the game co-op and hopefully have another great adventure just like we had in the first one. But unfortunately, after playing Dead Island Riptide, we really left it kind of disappointed. Now, I don't want to speak for him in this review because I don't know all of his feelings on the game. I only know my own. So let's talk about my feelings on the game. Dead Island Riptide picks up at the exact moment that Dead Island actually ended, and where you land on this military vessel. There is a mysterious man on there named Frank Serpo, who's like a businessman, and he more or less, in a nutshell, wants to basically take the immune survivors from the first game and test on them in order to figure out why they're immune. And some stuff happens, and basically the ship winds up crashing on this island, another tropical island, and that's where the game takes place. So it's very similar to the island of Manoy from the first game, except there's no resort or anything like that. It's just basically a generic tropical island. There's really nothing about it that makes it stand out. It's basically like from the first Dead Island, you had the three levels: the resort level, the city, and the jungle. It's basically like the jungle part of the first game, and that's the whole island basically in I'm sorry, not Far Cry 3, in Dead Island Riptide. The name of the island is Palanai, and from there the game is, the way I describe it, it's pretty much just like the first Dead Island, minus all of the cool, unique, interesting things that the first game had. So when I say it's just like it, I mean the gameplay is almost exactly the same. You're going to have a main quest line, of course. You're going to have numerous side missions in the game, which are all extremely generic and repetitive fetch quests. Every single side mission is a fetch quest. Go find this, go bring me this, go do this, go bring me 3 of these, go bring me this and that. And they're all very boring, they're very generic side quests. Even some of the side quests that start off as maybe they're going to be interesting wind up ending boring and generically, such as one side quest where we met this guy who seemed kind of crazy, and he thought he was like a superhero or something. He called himself the Zombie-nator, and he wanted you to go find his cape and his boots and this magical fish or something, and you're like, okay, what the hell? So you're like, this might be interesting. So you go looking for this stuff, you bring it to him, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen? He's like, I'm going off on an epic adventure. And then a couple minutes later, you go back, he's in the same area, you talk to him, you're like, what happened? And he's like, oh, I just decided it wasn't a good idea, so I didn't go, and here's your reward. Something that could have been a really interesting side quest turns out to be very boring. You get rewards for doing these side quests. You'll get money, you'll get experience points, you'll get weapon mods a lot of the times as rewards for these, or you'll get weapons. Again, the combat is identical to the first game. There will be a variety of weapons to pick up, like baseball bats, batons, golf clubs, crowbars, things like that you pick up. And of course, there's a host of mods, just like there were in the first game, that you can get ingredients for. You know, you need to get the blueprint, you get the ingredients, you go to a workbench, and you build the mod, put it on your weapon, and your weapon decays over time. It's exactly the same as the first game. You get guns at some point in the game. You know, later on in the game, towards the end of the game, you get guns, and they turn out to be like the best thing in the game, and you use those for the whole rest of the game. You know, and that's basically it. That's the gameplay of Dead Island Riptide. It's the same gameplay as Dead Island 1, except it's extremely boring and generic. Like I said, the side quests are very boring. I seem to remember, at least from the first Dead Island, there being some interesting side quests, even though they were repetitive. It's really the same thing. Now, they've added a few new things for Dead Island Riptide, but nothing that's very, you know, enough to really make the game that great or anything new. You've got to the point now where you'll have a home base, and it will change over time, where basically you have this large group of survivors, and actually whomever you pick to be your playable character, the other people who are playable characters that you didn't pick become NPCs, and they are actually stay at your base camp along with these other people you find on the island as your base camp, and they will have missions that you can do for them. Again, it's all fetch quests. Bring me 8 of this item, 2 of this item, 3 of this item. And they have a series of quests of bringing them stuff, and if you complete all of them, you know, it upgrades like their shop, so they might have better stuff at their shop. It upgrades their weapon ability, because there are parts in this game where your home base will be attacked by a horde of zombies that you have to fend off. It's part of the main quest. This happens a bunch. And it determines their effectiveness in combat, although Brandon and I did a lot of these side missions. It didn't really seem to do anything. It didn't really seem to make them much better in combat or anything like that. We really didn't notice the difference. The main reason we did these were for, again, XP and money and some of the rewards they gave. A lot of the times those characters would give you bombs or grenades or something like that, which is new. They didn't have grenades and stuff like that from the first game. They added these little side, these mini side areas, these mini side missions that you could go into, and there would be like this room or this area that were filled with a bunch of zombies, and there would be one boss zombie, and you know, you kill everything in the area, and they would usually have some type of chest there with a unique weapon in it. But these were extremely generic and boring. As I said, they were all the same thing. Actually, toward the end of the game, Brandon and I did 3 of these in a row. All 3 of them, even though they were in completely different locations, were the exact same area, this same room that was copied and pasted 3 times, and I mean exact same room 3 times in a row. And we were like, screw this, we're not doing it anymore, this is ridiculous. It's horrendously boring and generic. So they added that, big deal. They added a couple of new weapon types, like I think brass knuckles and a couple of other things, maybe a couple new mods. You know, there's now boats in the game, but the boats suck anyway. They're really slow, and the zombies can grab you off the boat, and it's really annoying. So they added a few things, but it's really not anything to go crazy over, and it's nothing to make a new game. The first Dead Island had 3 areas, as I mentioned. This game only has 2. The generic jungle area, and then this town called Henderson a little bit later on in the game, which is different because, like I said, it's a little town. But they're not as diverse as the city, the resort, and the jungle from the first Dead Island, and eventually the prison from Dead Island. There was nothing like that. It wasn't as diverse. It was more boring. Again, more generic. I keep using that word, but it's a word that's appropriate here. The game still has bugs, it still has problems. Our console's locked up like once or twice. Brandon had to quit the game a couple of times. Now, I will say that the one thing that this game has over the first Dead Island, I will say that the game ran a lot better. It didn't have nearly as many bugs or glitches as the first game. The first game was ridiculous. This game didn't seem to have as many problems, but again, that's not saying much because the first game had so many that it's hard to have the same amount, you know. But there were still there were still problems with enemies and walls. There was this one time where we were fighting the horde of people attacking the camp, and you have to kill all the zombies for the quest to go. One zombie was stuck in a wall, so we had to sit there for like 5 minutes and try to find a way to coax the zombie out of the wall so we could hit him and kill him and end the mission, We eventually did it. There are a lot of times where the frame rates will go to absolute shit, to where it's just like it's skipping whole like frames of animation, you know, glitches and stuff like that. So there still are problems. Now it's not as bad as the first game, but again, that's not saying much because the first game was horrendous. So yeah, that's basically it for Dead Island Riptide. Again, no real plot that anyone really cares about. They have some semblance of a plot, but it's not like it's a big deal. No one really cares about the plot. And, you know, they added like a couple of different kinds of zombies, but they're really annoying zombies. They're not like cool. One of them is called the Screamer. It's this enemy who stands there and screams, and it when it happens, it stuns you and you can't do anything. And it's really annoying because zombies just run up and attack you and destroy you. Zombies do a ridiculous amount of damage in this game, way more damage than they did in the first Dead Island. Just normal grunt zombies, if they hit you once, will take like 3 blocks of your health bar. It's ridiculous. And one of the more annoying things about this game is whenever you fight a pack of zombies, no matter where you're fighting them, every time you start fighting a pack of zombies, they will immediately spawn 1 or 2 zombies behind you. And it doesn't matter where you are, you could be in a closed room, whatever. Somehow zombies will spawn behind you inexplicably every time, and they will always hit you and take massive life. Extremely annoying. Once again, this is a game just like the first game where there's absolutely no point to play it single player. There's less of a point in this game. If you've, of course, you know, if you've played the first Dead Island, there's really no point. The first Dead Island, I said there wouldn't be much of a point to play it single player. It would be very boring. But at least the first one was somewhat original. This one's not original anymore because we've already seen it in the first Dead Island. And you'll just get massively frustrated and bored if you play this game single player. I mean, if you couldn't play this game single player, don't bother. Just don't even bother. And there's a good reason to not even bother to play this game co-op. Because especially if you've played the first Dead Island, it's a better game. Dead Island 1 was a better game. If you play this game, you're just going to be disappointed because it's nowhere near as good as Dead Island 1. It's boring, it's generic, it's repetitive, and by the end of the game, it's just you don't want to play it anymore, you just want to beat it because you're tired of the same repetitive shit over and over and over and over again, and, you know, it's a disappointment. Sorry, checking my time. Okay, so, really, that's it. That's all I have to say about Dead Island Riptide. It's a copy of the first game, minus all the cool original stuff of the first game, minus the originality, because as I've said, we've seen it before, so it's no longer original, and it's generic and boring. So, one thing I do want to bring up to clear some confusion, if there are people who are watching this review who only watched some parts of my playthrough and didn't watch the last video of the playthrough, during the credits, because you won't know this, but during the entire course of the game I was complaining about this horrific bug where my character would just, for no reason at all, he would just explode and die instantly. There would be nothing exploding around me, no barrels, nothing. There would be no zombies. I would just be walking or doing something, all of a sudden I would just explode and die immediately, and I was going crazy the whole playthrough. So for those of you who saw that and you're watching this review, you might be surprised at why in the world is he not mentioning that. There's a simple answer to that, and that's because it wasn't a bug. If you can believe it, the entire playthrough, my friend Brandon was trolling me to the max, and he was killing me every time. He was throwing grenades at me. He was setting down mines and stuff to kill me. So it was him the whole time. Now I have to give him credit because he did it brilliantly, because I had no idea the whole game that he was doing it. I probably should have, but I didn't. And he did a masterful job at it, so the whole game I was raging about this insane bug, I couldn't believe it. Turns out it wasn't a bug. So for those of you who may have seen that happen during the playthrough and you didn't see the credits where he actually told me that it was him the whole time, that's why I'm not mentioning it, because it wasn't a bug, it was him. But, which is pretty funny. But yeah, that's it. That's what I have to say about Dead Island Riptide. It's really the only reason I can recommend playing this game is if you have friends together, that it's one of those things where, like, no matter what the game is, as long as you're playing it together, it's a shit ton of fun because you just make fun of stuff and you have a good time laughing. That's the way it is with Brandon and I. If you have a friend like that and you want to check this game out for co-op, rent it over the weekend and play it. This is definitely not a purchase. Even though there is a lot of content, I think Brandon and I took about 15 to 20 hours to beat the game. I don't have an exact count for you, but it's got a lot of content. But the thing is, it's all repetitive content, and it's falsely extended because a quest that should be very short, they just extend the length of it. Like, oh, you need to go in the store. Every single time, oh, it's locked. You can't get in. Find another way in. So you go around, you find another door. Oh, it's locked. Go find a key. So you go find a key. It's that stuff. It's artificially making the game longer when it doesn't need to be. So even though it's 15 to 20 hours of content here, it's freaking boring. And, you can do it for the XP and for the weapons, but it's funny because, like, even before halfway through the game, Brandon and I had already found like some of the best weapons in the game, and for most of the game, we didn't take any more weapons to upgrade them. Like, I would say about halfway through the game, we had weapons that were rape, and we didn't do anything. Like, every weapon we took, we just sold. So there was really no purpose of doing it to get weapons, and the XP and all was cool because you could level up. But there was a point where I actually leveled up everything I wanted to level up. The other things I could level up, I didn't care about. There was one about, like, take reduced bullet damage. We fought enemies who had guns one time in the entire 20 hours. There was one part where there were enemies with guns that perk would have come in handy. Every time else, every other time it wouldn't have come in handy because it was just zombies. So there's a time where once you have really good weapons and you've leveled up what you want to level up, there's no reason to keep doing these repetitive side quests unless you want the achievement for hitting level 50. Other than that, don't bother with the side quests. So that's what I have to say about Dead Island Riptide. I'm disappointed in the game. Thought it could be a lot better. Was interested to play it, and it's just basically a big, generic, boring, color by numbers, boring experience. So if you have people that you have fun playing games with, just because y'all are good friends and you have a lot of fun, and you want to check the game out, and you've already played games like Borderlands and Borderlands 2 and Dead Island 1, all of which are better games than this, and you don't have anything else to play, then you can check out Dead Island Riptide. If you're looking for a game to play by yourself, do not play this game. It's a waste of your time and money. You will get pissed off and bored and stop playing it. So, because of all that, I have to give Dead Island Riptide a 6 out of 10. It's really just not that great of a game. I've heard people saying like really bad things. I've seen a couple of scores that were a 4 out of 10. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's below average. There's a lot of games that I've played that were a shit ton worse than Dead Island Riptide that deserve to be 4s. I don't think this game deserves to be a 4 because even though we've seen all this stuff before with the weapon mods and stuff like that in the first Dead Island, it still has them, and it's still interesting, to put all these mods on these weapons and to level up. It does have a lot of content. It's not like a 4-hour game. And there is fun to be had here if you play it co-op. You can enjoy it. For the most part, Brandon and I enjoyed playing. It was just really toward the end of the game where it was just so generic and repetitive we got tired of it. So, do I think it's a 4 out of 10? No, I don't think it's that low. I think it's better than that. But it's not that much better than average. It's only above average, again, because of the weapon mods and some of the funny dialogue and the characters, the fact that it does have co-op, the fact that it is a long game. Even if it's artificially done, it's still a lot of content. So I do think it's above average, but not that great. It's a 6 out of 10. For perspective, I gave Dead Island 1 a 7.25 out of 10. This game is definitely a point and a quarter less than Dead Island 1. So it gets a 6 out of 10 for me. Disappointed, but it is what it is. Brandon and I still had our funny moments, and that's it. So thank you guys for watching this episode of Voodoo's Verdict. I hope you found it useful and informative to you. Please leave comments in the section below. Let me know how you think I did on the review. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, that's it. So thanks, guys. I'll see you on future episodes of Voodoo's Verdict. And until then, peace out.